you give a brief description of yourself?
Myself, pretty mellow, laid-back guy. 40 years old. Probably don't act my age. I still don't have a family yet of my own, but maybe. I still got time. My old man didn't have me until he was 42, so I've got these. This is my 2-year grace period.
All right. So, why did you join the military?
Well, it's actually funny. So what had happened was when I joined, it was when I originally talked to the recruiter for the National Guard. It was back in August of 2001, so this is before 9/11 had happened. And so what my old man did, because I, was being a typical teenager of those years, kind of wandering around, not knowing what I actually wanted to do with myself. So he just kind of left these brochures on my bed and was like, well, since you're not doing athletics the way you should be doing, and I don't have money for college, you might want to start looking into this a little bit more. So of course I did. I ended up calling the recruiter. We ended up talking. Michael Jacobson was his name. He's a good guy, and they offered all these bonuses and everything for what you could do in the National Guard. It was like you could go out, see the world 1 weekend a month, and then still take all the state and benefits. And then right after that happened, not even a week later, September 11th happened. And I didn't officially sign up yet, but part of me, it was kind of like something I knew was up when I got home, because the phone was ringing. It was back when everyone still had landlines then. And there was Sergeant Jacobson on the phone. Said, "You're still going to join, right? You get the kicker and that. We got these new emergency benefits coming in." And, I still joined, and pretty much there, the rest is history.
So did 9/11 make you want to join the military more or less, or how did that affect you?
I would honestly say it was probably about the same, whether or not. Definitely, as my career progressed, I definitely saw more things after 9/11. The whole world had changed. So definitely had more deployments under my belt than I probably would have just staying National Guard stateside.
All right. So what did you do in the military?
I was a 31 Bravo, used to be 95 Bravo. They changed over the officer nomenclature, so that's military police.
And where did you deploy?
My first deployment was in Fort Carson, Colorado. I served 15 months there, pretty much being a police officer running the road. And then my second deployment was in 2012 to 2013 in Afghanistan.
All right. What do you remember about adapting to military life?
Adapting about military life is one of the things was obviously the time, especially when you're going through basic training. You got the drill sergeant screaming at you at 4 in the morning with a garbage can. Can be not kind of fun sometimes. And then another thing it was adapted to was the food and the styles, because everyone's got to be clean shaven and kind of crew cut hair. So that kind of wasn't my thing, especially the clean shaven thing. As you see, I haven't been clean shaven actually since I got out of the military. So.
So as a guard, how did you work with being civilian and military at the same time?
Yeah, it was definitely a transition. Honestly, it's like when you think about the military, I always tell people it's just like a 9-to-5 job, just like anywhere else. You just put on a uniform and combat boots. Honestly, even my time in active duty, you had your time when you were actually on, whether I was military police running the road or when I was in Afghanistan manning the towers, I had my shifts that I was able to work, and then after that I was off. So it's pretty much the same thing. It's just like if you wore a uniform, if you were a first responder or something, in the civilian side.
All right. What skills or lessons did you learn or pick up from service?
I would say the skill set I picked up was definitely my people skills, mainly having empathy with your fellow man. I would always say that is the one thing, especially, it was actually more Fort Carson than it would be Afghanistan, believe it or not. We had a lot of the guys just back then coming back from Iraq, and these guys were serving 15, 18-month deployments. And this is before we as the military kind of knew how to handle the mental health issues. And a lot of these guys were coming back just, not in a good mental state of mind. So, when you're getting out to those calls, for some reason, I give you a case in point. A prime example is I get called to to a CQ, so that's charge of quarters. These guys are medical holds. So they got some reason or another, they were either injured one way or another, and they were going, they're getting basically discharged out. And so we get called for the medical hold. It's a Monday night. I had like that was my beat, so I get called to this. So it's Monday night, there's nothing going on, so we get called for a fight. So of course the rest of the shift comes rolling in there, and then we find out that this fight was not really a fight, and then everyone of course leaves me because I got to do all the paperwork. So there's a young man, and I cannot remember his name, but I remember going in there talking to the sergeant, and like he showed me this young man, and he's pretty roughed up. And I was like, oh man, like what happened to him? And I was like, well, let me go find his assailant. And as I started to walk in, the sergeant stopped me. He goes, no, man. He's like, it's not, like we actually caught him in there fighting by himself. And it was a 3-story building, I believe it was, back in Fort Carson. It was like the old World War II barracks. But they literally caught him before he was about to jump out of the window. And so I was like, and they're like, he's drinking on his medication. And I was like, well, where's his medication? So he hands me a grocery bag full of pills, like bottles of pills. And of course I immediately called an ambulance. And then to make a long story short, he had a pretty bad time. He had a pretty bad time there. So it was, something where I'd say when I first joined and, deployments, because everyone's wearing the ribbons and the medals and like that's what you wanted. And then, once you really come to realize what the perspective is, like it will make you think twice about that. So.
Okay, so what are some life lessons, I already asked that one. What was the best and worst part about your service?
Best part of my service is I'd always say the camaraderie. The worst part of my service, so I have to think about that one for a second because there's always things that go bad, but I'm trying to think. The worst part of my service would have to been the first time, like, well, let me rephrase that. It's the camaraderie, but like the lessons learned. So can I tell you guys another story? So this one was in Afghanistan, and it's kind of like the best and worst part of like what we have to do, because like sometimes, the rules of engagement dictate that, to save, myself and my comrades, like heavily bodily injury, limb or eyesight is like what the rules of engagement said, what I could engage somebody. So I come on the shift. So in Afghanistan, I worked the night shift. So we ran, and all we did was we ran the towers for a special forces base. We just, kept watch on everything and like ran the gate. So I just happened to be the duty officer for the front gate. So there's people that like convoys are coming in and out. They mainly shut it down from time nightfall, so there should be nobody there. But it just happened to be this one time as we're transitioning from the day shift to the night shift, there just happened to be this guy in what was the parking lot, which wasn't much of a parking lot. It's basically just a dust area where the local Afghans would come and park, and then they'd leave during the evening. And this guy was there who we'd never seen him before. He's just out there. He was like in typical Afghan garb, the long body dress with the pants, and he was wearing some type of turban, but he's just, waving his arms at the camera, like trying to get somebody's attention. So I'm talking to the sergeant in charge, Sergeant Stu, is like, hey man, who the heck is this guy? They're like, man, we really don't know. Like he literally just popped up in here like 5 minutes before you guys walked on scene. So I was like, okay. I was like, well, like let's get our shift changed out, and then like I'll go see what he wants, Meanwhile, I get on the phone with BDOC, which is like base defense operators. That's my platoon sergeant. And I'm talking to them like, hey, you guys see this guy on the camera? And they're like, yeah, we definitely see him. And then so I was like, okay, well, I was like, let me get the shift position, everyone in their positions, and like I'm going to go check him out. Now, the thing is with this is, so like when I'm in this position, I sit at the base of the tower. Now on the top of the tower, I've got this 240 Bravo. I have 2 machine guns up top, and like what happens is like the rest of the guys will rotate. The one person will be on the base of the tower with me. That's like the prime spot. That's what you want to do, because like we're basically just sitting there, watching movies, and I'm watching the camera and watching my guys as well. But that guy pretty much, he gets a chill gig. So it was assigned to my team member Cepeda, Alejandro Cepeda, who was like, he was with me that day. He was really stoked. He's like, hey man, he's like, I got all these movies picked out. We're gonna do all this. So meanwhile, I'm talking to B-Doc, and they were telling me like, you don't go out there, you send somebody else. Now I'm on the phone with all my shift with me and getting ready to transition my guys out, and I'm on speakerphone. So my entire shift just heard this, and I was like, well, dang, I got to take somebody with me, you know? And so I put all my guys in their position, and then Sergeant Stu was like, well, who are you going to take out with you? You're not going to go out there by yourself, are you? He's like, are you going to go out there yourself? I was like, yes, I'm going out there myself. My thing is like, hey, you can't lead from behind. So if there's going to be a risk to be taken, then I'm going to be the first person to access and take that risk if need be. So, of course, Cepeda being the lucky guy that got to sit with me that entire time, I looked at him and was like, hey, buddy, looks like me and you are going for a little walk. So Cepeda and I walk out there. The gentleman, I don't know any Farsi or any Afghan language. So we come out there, towards the guy, and as we're getting closer, we got to turn off our radios because we don't know if this guy's, rigged up or anything for booby traps. And so, we've got no clue, like, why this guy's here. And I'm just pointing to him, I've got my rifle in my hand. It's like slung on my body with my body armor and everything. We're fully kitted up. We've got our helmets on and everything. So I'm just telling this guy, hey, man, you got to go. Like, you go. And, he's still, talking his jive and waving his hands. He had some papers that he wanted to show me. I didn't know what it was. So I just I did not point my weapon at him, but I just kind of raised it up a little bit off of my chest and said, hey, you go. And then he left. So then they wanted us to sweep, make sure he didn't leave any traps out there. This is kind of mean on my part. So we do me and Cepeda would kind of circle, do a do-si-do and a 360. By the time we were halfway done, I knew this guy didn't leave anything, but me being kind of an a-hole, but so I looked at Cepeda and was like, hey man, do you see that wire down there? And he kind of freaks out, and he's like, where's it at, Sergeant Butler? I was like, it's down there, do you see it? And as he gets down closer, I'm like, boom! Dude, scared the heck out of him, dude. Poor guy, that was kind of mean. It's kind of my best and worst moment. So, but the ironic thing with that guy was, it turned out that our base was basically all of his property before the war. So, it's a good thing that I didn't engage him, but, the poor guy sent him packing, with the papers to his land, and there's nothing I could have did anyway. But that was definitely one of the lessons, one of my lessons learned, where it's like, at any time where you have to, kill or be killed, but, my judgment, my wisdom, decided that, didn't warrant that for that situation. So I'm glad it turned out that way.
Mm-hmm. So how did you stay in touch with your friends and family on deployment?
Well, they got the RMO. So basically it's still like the, we had pay phones. Well, you didn't have to pay for them. They gave us the cards, but we'd keep in touch, contact. So when it was nighttime for me, I'd have to call either really late at night because it was morning during the daytime here. So that's how I'd keep in touch with my family pretty much. And I wrote a lot of letters. I worked on my penmanship. My buddies still have some of that stuff. It's pretty good stuff I wrote.
Okay, so did you meet any lifelong friends while in the service that you still are in contact with or know?
Oh yes, I still keep in contact with Cepeda on occasion, every now and again. We don't meet up as much as we'd like to. I've got George Reyes, good buddy of mine. Basically anyone from the old unit, from my 933rd, my unit, I keep in touch with. Not so much as the active duty guys. As a matter of fact, I saw when I was in Fort Carson, I was deployed with Eric Grendel, who was a sergeant back then. And actually, ironic, dude, is like a month ago, I met him here at this VFW, so that was pretty cool. And dude, we hadn't seen each other in like 20 years. So that was pretty cool.
Mm-hmm. Was there anything that you took for granted about civilian life?
Take for granted about civilian life, definitely sleeping in. That's definitely something you'll take for granted. Wake up at 8 in the morning and thought you slept in. It's you think it's the afternoon. It's man, it's only 8 in the morning. People didn't even officially start work yet for the most part.
Okay. Is there anything difficult about transitioning to civilian life, or how was
The transition to civilian life, for me, I didn't have a problem with it. I could understand how some guys might have had more issues with it. Mainly, like I say, it's like probably style. Like, you'll know somebody that's like came out of like some form of active duty just because like the way they dress. They'll have their shirt tucked in, they'll have the crew cut. They'll just look off. You'll know.
All right. Did the VFW play a role in helping you transition back to civilian life, or was it?
I actually did not join this VFW till about, going on my second year now. So it's ironic how I ended up coming here. Is like just after I got out of the Army, after I was officially out and with my deployments in Afghanistan, I never just decided to join the VFW or Foreign Legion or anything. My friend John had a wedding here, and I ended up meeting Larry Osborne. And then we got to talking. He's like, "Hey, man," he's like, "if you've been overseas, like we could really use you here." So I turned in my paperwork, and the rest is history.
All right. Did you see any changes in what you value or appreciate after going through military life?
Yeah, definitely. We have what we call the Army as a core value. It's kind of an acronym of it's spelled leadership. It's loyalty, duty, respect, honor. Man, you got it better than me. Yeah, selfless service, and what's the P?
Personal.
Yeah, personal courage. Man, that's good, man. That was good. But I definitely took that out of there after I got out. I definitely learned how to definitely treat people with respect. And one of the things if for people that don't do first responder jobs, me being military police and serving time in Afghanistan, you really learn how to respect the sanctity of human life.